dear ones, welcome into the sanctuary on this beautiful Sunday, this first Sunday of April already. And spring is not only in the air, it's appearing all over the place. And I'm knowing that you and I are taking full cognizance of all of that beautiful color appearing, all the beautiful fragrances from the color that's appearing, and enjoying the song of the birds. And not to mention all that green. Make the most of it. We don't know how long it'll be green and when we'll see green again, because it's not easy being green in California. And so, my dear ones, we proceed again, and we're going deeper and deeper into this thing called relationship. And it doesn't matter what we're thinking about or what we're entertaining. It's all about relationship, because that's all there is. The relationship that each individual expression of life has with itself. And so today that comes to us under the skies of chaos and order, and the realization that love points the way and the law makes the way possible for you and for me and everything else to realize its fullness and its wholeness and its completeness. And so when we look at chaos, we like to dissociate ourselves from that and don't want to have anything to do with chaos, and that's impossible. Because to be on planet Earth, three-dimensional planet Earth, is to experience chaos. We're actually told that everything began with a great big chaotic bang, and great good came out of it. And that's a well-established theory. And so what you and I are asked today and in this week and from here on in is to embrace chaos and to see chaos as an opportunity for wonderful new expansion and growth. It is through chaos that very often things are birthed. Ask any woman who has birthed a baby. And I'm telling you, once that chaotic thing is going on and the pain of that and so on, the turbulence and the truculence of that is over, then the joy of the newness that appears as a result of it far outdoes the experience of what it was to bring that into being, and we forget the chaotic pain and all the rest of it. And so we have this chaos and order, and you see, here's the thing, there's order in the midst of it all, in the midst of chaos. And so every single person in this room has experienced chaotic life and living. If any time you've ever felt out of control, that everything was going to hell in a handbasket, and you had no idea if you'd even come through this or survive it or whatever else, you understand what chaos is. Except perhaps in the past we've approached it differently, and we've been scared by it and frightened by it and afraid of it. Well, now we don't have to be afraid of chaos anymore. We can embrace it as the opportunity that it is. It's a midwife, is what it is. It's the ability to move through something that costs and demands something of us on the human plane. And if we're willing to go with the flow of it, we move into a much more expanded and wonderful new thing. And so we're living in interesting times. We're living in the best of times. Things were never as good as they are now, believe it or not. We're living in the best of times. But within those times, there's a lot of turbulence and truculence and what appears to be chaos and so on, which you rub your hands and say, oh, goody, goody, something great's coming through here. I wonder what it is. It must be something really big because there's a whole lot of chaos out there at the moment. This is going to be a real good thing. And you know, through the times of Ernest Holmes, he went through all kinds of turbulent and truculent times too, but he stood sovereign in the realization and in the awareness of a new world. He always had this sense of a new world. And he knew that we were borderlining something extremely new and wondrous. And he held to that conviction. And you know, and he always said, just give me 1,000 people who are really with this, on with this, who can say to all of that chaos, bring it on, because I know what's going to happen and what is happening. And if you could apply all the wisdom and knowledge of the ages and embody that and show up as that, he said, we'd only need 1,000 people to do that for the whole thing to break forth and bud forth into a whole new world. And that's where we are just now. We are there at this point just now. And it takes enough of us to make sure that this is what's going to happen. The new world will be birthed. Or we could destroy the whole thing. That's the choice at the moment. We can go either way. And so we just need that quantum number of people that are on the birthing side of life and not the demolition side of life for this to happen. And so I'm knowing that each and every one of us is on the birthing side of life and not the demolition side of life, because that's what it takes. Remember, love, 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 love is what's going to do it. We are told there is nothing enough love cannot do. There's nothing enough love cannot bring about of good. There's nothing enough love cannot mend, fix, and heal. And we know this, and we've heard this, and we've read this, and we're hearing it all of the time. But what is it about each one of us that resists that? Do I not know myself as that which is enough love? Do I not associate myself with the call to be the great lover? Because that's what we're all called to be, Ernest Holmes says. The best practitioners are the greatest lovers. And you have to be a lover of people. You have to be a lover in order to be a great practitioner. And a great practitioner is simply somebody who can move through whatever it is that crosses the path that seems to be of some kind of disturbing nature. And not to own it, not to claim it, and not to identify with it, but to move through it in a way that knows this is just a birthing opportunity. A birthing opportunity, that's all. Something new and something wonderful, something different, wants to happen by means of this showing up in someone's life, your own or somebody else's. And so it's all about this thing called love. Love is the lamp unto our feet and the light unto our path. It always has been and it always will be. So what is it in you and what is it in me that stops that and that blocks that? Can I associate myself with being a great lover? Or is that sounding really ridiculous or nonsensical, or I'm not ready, I'm not there yet, and blah, blah, blah? I don't know what that is, but I'll tell you, the only way to overcome our own individualized experiences of whatever it is that we think is lacking, or whatever it is that enables us or disables us, is to become the love that we already are. The love that we already are. It's from what we came. It's what we're made out of. It's what we are. And if we have blinders onto that still, perhaps we need to be willing to take the blinders off. The first step, be willing to take the blinders off and know myself as the love that I am. Conceived in love, birthed from love, as love, to be love, to realize love in myself and everything and everyone. And when I'm talking about conception, I'm talking about the Immaculate Conception. Each one is an immaculate conception, an immaculate conception. Love begetting love on the inside of life and made manifest on the outside of life. And so the Word is made flesh. The Word is love. Love is made flesh all of the time. And you and I are all the time fleshing out love, or we're not. So we have to be okay with the times we're in. We have to not be troubled by the times that we're in, to the extent that it paralyzes us, to the extent that it scares us, to the extent that it frightens us. And I don't have to change the world, thanks be to all that is. You don't have to change the world, thanks be to all that is. You only have to change yourself. I only have to change myself, and that's how the world changes. One self individualized at a time. That is all. And not to be afraid of this thing called chaos. I mean, I came across this the other day, and this is what we were presented with to think about this week. And on this sheet of paper, there's a quote from Swedenborg, and it really spoke to me. And he said, "Before anything is brought back into order, it is quite normal for it to be brought first into a kind of confusion, a virtual chaos. In this way, things that fit together badly are severed from each other, and when they have been severed, then the Lord, which is the law, arranges them in order." Now, we can see this going on in our world today. We certainly can. The dismantling of one thing for the building up of another. And so we have to know in our deepest being, that this is neither good nor bad, it's just what is, and how we interact with it will bring about a good or a bad result. So you and I are called to be the vanguard. We are called to be the frontliners in keeping that poise and that presence and that sovereignty and that sense of all is well as we move through these changing times, with its turbulence, with its truculence, and so on. So we are the ones that are called. There's no one else called. You're called with, I'm called with. It's not them out there. Or we're not waiting for some wonderful person to come along, another Martin Luther King or another Gandhi or another Nelson Mandela or another Mother Teresa, whatever. No, we have to bring all of that energy out of ourselves. We have to find that energy within ourselves. And we have to be spiritually full of fortitude. Spiritual fortitude is courage, 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 courage. We can't be cowering. We can't be timorous. We can't be like this. We can't hide away in a hole. Everywhere will be found. It doesn't matter where we try to run away from ourselves. Ourself will meet us wherever we're running to. There's no doubt about that. There's no getting away from that. And thanks be to goodness, there's no getting away from the self. Don't want to get away from the self. We want to be fully immersed in that self. Because as Ernest Holmes says, our final emancipation is written by our own hand. Our final emancipation is written by our own hand through the deep conviction that resides in the heart of us. Through the deep conviction that resides in the heart of us. That's how we are free. And everybody wants to be free. I want to be free. That's what vacations are all about. We run away to vacations to be free of it all. So that, it's on vacation when you have the opportunity to be totally in the moment. Isn't it lovely? You get up in the morning and you don't say, I have to do that now, and I have to do that now, and that meeting, this meeting. I have to pick up the cleaning, there's none of that. You wake up in the morning and say, well, what am I going to allow happen through me today? I can choose to do anything, be anything I want to be. I can choose to do a whole lot or nothing. I can just laze around in the sun. I can just be here now. And we are not thinking about anything else, just being present to the gorgeousness of the day and its opportunity to feel free, unencumbered, unrushed. We don't have to follow the tyranny of the clock and the gadgets, the tyranny of the gadgets and the clock. Oh my God. It's a full-time occupation with so many of us. We're like this all the time. Excuse me, I have to just get this. I'm telling you, it's a wonder we don't have a constant twitch. No wonder so many of us have carpal tunnel stuff and have to go and have surgeries and so on and so forth. Now, if we could exercise the rest of our body as much as we exercise those, I'm telling you, we'd be in great shape. I know it. If the toes could do it, and the knees could do it, and the hips could do it, I'm telling you, the elbows could do it, and the shoulders could do it, we wouldn't have to go to a gym. We'd be in tip-top shape. I can't tell you the state of our mind, but our body would be doing well, that's for sure. So let's get a pause here. Is there the problem with this thing here? There's no pause button on it. Have you noticed that? You can't pause the darn thing, And if you forget to turn it off at night and you have your phone in your room, forget about any sleep. I can tell you that. That'll be pinging and pogging and all the rest of it. But anybody who takes that into the bedroom needs to be examined, I think, anyway. And so, my dear ones, we're coming back to the understanding and the realization that what is asked of us today is to jolly well sit up straight, straighten our spines, and say, I am the interior lordship with full authority over this thing called the law, this thing called the Comforter by Jesus, the Law by Ernest Holmes, the Servitor by Emma Curtis Hopkins, ready and available to serve my needs as I define my needs to that creative energy. And the needs I express to that creative energy can be worry and fright and anxiety and fear and lack of and woe is me and all the rest of it. And it will happily serve you perfectly and bring all of those experiences into your life, and know that as it does, it's serving you well. Or the opposite. All the good thoughts, all the good feelings, all the good sense and sensibility that I entertain. Now, my goodness, how much does it take from us to get it once and for all? It's all in the mind, it's all with the mind, it's all in the feeling, and it's all with the feeling with regard to how your life is unfolding and how my life is unfolding. It's all right where I am. I am the captain of this ship, and wherever I sail it, I have set the course for, whether it's deep stormy seas or whether I'm cruising to Margaritaville. I always drink virgin margaritas, by the way. I like to maintain the full senses and the full control over my mind. So I can drift away in Margaritaville with the best of them. And it's wonderful. It's just so wonderful. Or I can be tossed on the stormy sea, as though I'd been drinking bottles of vinegar or something. I don't know. But whatever it is we're entertaining, that's the juice we're drinking. That's the food we're eating. We're feeding our mind with it. We're feeding our souls with it. We're feeding ourselves with it. All that toxic stuff, it's like picking up a bottle of poison and drinking it and thinking, I'm going to feel so good after this, you see. Once I have a good, cribbing session, once I have a good complaining session, once I have a good moaning and groaning session, I'll feel so much the better for it. Well, no. So what we need to do is take that ball of energy that is sticking in our craw, so to speak, and dissipate it with what? The energy of the lover, the energy of love itself, the energy that brings about the peace and the poise and all of that wonderful centering thing that is coming from the true essence of ourselves, so that we are not moved off our center point by any person, place, or thing, which can easily happen when you're very tired and overworked and you haven't been taking care of the body. I know that in myself. I don't have the same resilience and resourcefulness when I have done that to my body, and I have not taken care of it properly. But you can only burn the candle at both ends for so long. I'm telling you, when those two ends meet, ouch. It is not pleasant. It is not pleasant. So burning the candle at one end is more than enough. More than enough. So what is it going to be for you and for me today, this week? Do I leave the sanctuary today thinking, well, that was a great talk, and that's the end of it? Or what was being called up from me in the sanctuary today? What is it that I have been given an invitation to move upon? What is it that I have been asked to release and let go of that I've been hanging on to for far too long? What is it that I'm resisting allowing into my life for far too long? What is it that is calling me back into that deeper awareness that all is well and that I am well capable and equal to manage my life very well and successfully in a way that keeps expanding me and expanding me and expanding me. And if I'm expanding myself, I am expanding all of life. If I am constricting myself, I am constricting all of life. That's how amazingly significant and vast and important I am. It's not just about the personality, egoic, human self, me. It's about my divinity not being given the opportunity to express itself and raise all life and living as it does when I do that and when I'm one with that. When I'm distracted, it's not going to happen. And I allow myself to be distracted in so many ways. So I would say, to begin with, allow ourselves to observe ourselves. Just become the observer of yourself this week. Nothing else. That's all that's asked of you. Observe yourself. Observe how you are, how you show up. Who shows up by means of you? Observe your responses. Observe, the way you think about something, the way you respond to something, react to something, the way you feel about something, what you do about something, and the manner in which you do it. Because remember, it's not what you're doing. I don't care if you do all the good deeds in the world. If you're doing it with a rotten attitude, it doesn't serve at all the good in life and living. That is to give the trousers and cut the buttons out of it, as my mother would say. And that's not the right way to be giving. You show up first and foremostly with a great attitude, and I've always said, I will favor great attitude over genius any day. Genius does not impress me, even though all of us have an inner genius. It's the attitude with which people present themselves and interact with other selves that impresses me. And so the invitation today is always to remember your interior lordship, to remember that your good is there for you, as Emma says, and you ought to have it. But you will not have it by telling yourself you're not enough, or you're lacking in any way, or that you have a further way to go in order to get there. Where are you getting? There's nowhere for you to go. You're already here. You've already been here. You are where you're supposed to be, with yourself. That's the only place to get to. The only person to get to, the only thing to get to, is to yourself. Back into yourself, back into that interior lordship that Emma talks about, and to think from it, and to feel from it, and to act from it, you see. So it's never about doing and doing and doing. It's first and foremost about being, and then your doing will be marvelous. Your doing will be phenomenal once you're one with the beingness of who and what you are. And so today we're invited to remember, and it doesn't matter what's going on in your life and how yucky you've been feeling or how things haven't been going all that well, and you think you haven't been doing that well, that doesn't matter. That's a think and that's a feeling, and you are not a think and you are not a feeling. You are the living, alive presence of life itself, and no thought has power over you unless you allow it, and no feeling has power over you unless you allow it. You're the living presence of the most high, individualized expression of life itself. You are sacred and holy ground. You are the sacred self. You are the holy self. You couldn't be more of all the good there is than you are right now. You couldn't be more of that. So as we observe ourselves this week, let the observance of the wholeness and the wellness and the fullness of our being come through as we honor ourselves as the truth of being that we are, the essence of all that is good that we are. Love unconditioned and love unconditional is what we are. Nothing less and nothing more. That's the truth of our being. Whether we behave ourselves in that fashion or not is another thing. But it doesn't matter how we misbehave. It doesn't take away from the truth that I am the life, the light, the love, the peace, the beauty, the power, the wisdom, the knowledge, the understanding of that from whence I came. Because I'm created in its image and in its likeness. And all I have to do is to become more of what I came from. That is all to mend, fix, heal, or cure anything. And remember what I said last week, if any of us can let go of fear, but it has to be all fear, there's instant cure for whatever seems to need it. So I will leave you with this to ponder as you are observing yourself. The words of one of my teachers every time he left the assembly was, "Beloved, honor yourself, respect yourself, love yourself, for God dwells in you as you." And I thank you for the opportunity of allowing me to be here to observe this and to acknowledge this and to say to each and every one exactly as you are right now, Namaste. And so it is.